Good morning. It's, I believe, 9:32 a.m. on February 28, 2011. This meeting of the Camino Real Regional Deli Authority Board is now in session. Mr. Tejas, any public comments?
No, we have no public comments.
Item 3, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the execution and submission of a pass-through financing application to the Texas Department of Transportation, TxDOT, for the I-10 at Mesa Park Frontage Roads and Interchange Project as part of the TxDOT 2011 Pass-Through Finance 2011 Call for Projects. Mr. Tejas.
Raymond Tejas, Executive Director. First off, thank you all for making time for this special board meeting. I think it will be helpful. This item number 3 relates to an item that we had on the last regular scheduled board meeting, which relates to the reference project. What you'll find in your backup is the actual application itself, which we are proposing to submit. Actually, let me back up. The Texas Department of Transportation has a what's referred to as a call for projects related to their pass-through financing program. And essentially, what they do is they open up the call. This year, they open it up on January 1, and it runs all the way through March 1st, which is tomorrow. So what that project is essentially in this iteration is a call for projects for the pass-through financing of up to $250 million throughout the state. So essentially, when an entity like, for example, this CRRMA submits an application, then we are pitted in a competition against other applications that are submitted throughout the state. What we're looking to do, and as you've seen in the attached application, is submit a request to the Texas Department of Transportation in the amount of $19,355,725. That accounts for the construction costs. And in fact, if you'll note in your backup behind tab 3, you'll actually see a project summary sheet, which should help you really dig down into the specifics, and I'd like to go through those with you. That may be the easier way to get through the details of the application. As you'll see, what I've added is Roman numeral 1 is the project scope, number 2 is the project financing plan, and then number 3 is the actual map. And in fact, if I could ask IT to bring up the map, I think it may actually be up. So that we'll be able to flip, you'll know exactly what we're talking about. So the project scope itself is really looking at 2 phases. In the first phase, and you can see this clearly through the map, the first phase looks to add westbound frontage lanes from Executive Center to I-10, to an I-10 interchange, a newly proposed I-10 interchange at Mesa Park Roadway. We're also looking to develop an overpass at that new interchange, and also eastbound frontage lanes from the new interchange back to the Executive Center, along with striping and related improvements. And really what we're looking to do is build off of a development that is currently being developed by the, which is referred to as the minor village development. And what they're looking to do is really develop a lot of that land on the, I guess that would be the east side of I-10, just west of Executive. So what we're looking to do is assist with that development. So really, if you go to the map, then you'll see exactly what we're looking to do. The portions in red would be phase 1, and that shows essentially what we're looking to do is give frontage roads from Executive over to the new interchange, the overpass at the new interchange, and then westbound from the new interchange back to Executive Center. Phase 2 is a little bit more in depth, which really extends the frontage lanes from the new interchange westbound at Mesa Park all the way to Sunland Park, and also adds some additional extension of the frontage lanes from essentially what's referred to as the Asarco Bridge over to Executive Center as well. So this application is seeking the $19 million that I referenced, and that's for both phase 1 and phase 2. Now, the call for projects only allows for pass-through financing to be provided for construction costs, so that $19 million would cover the construction costs for both phases. I should also mention, though, that the application has been drafted in such a way that in the event that TxDOT desires to only approve phase 1, they could do that as well. So they could approve phase 1 funding or approve both phase 1 and phase 2. So in terms of the actual dollars, you'll see under Roman numeral 2, the project financing plan, there's a bit of a narrative which explains that The 19 million is sought from the pass-through financing program of TxDOT. The remaining 4 million and I should clarify, the remaining 4 million covers all of the rest of the development costs. So that's design costs, indirect construction, engineering, environmental, and those sorts of costs. There would also be some interest that would be included on top of that. But to get to that point, really, the way that the RMA is proposing to develop this project is really to use two funding sources. So, of course, the pass-through financing is the first funding source. And actually, let me back it up. First, the RMA would issue bonds for the total project costs. Then those bonds would be repaid through two funding sources. And the first would be the pass-through financing provided by TxDOT. And the second would be the revenues generated from various, what are referred to as 380 incentive agreements between the City of El Paso and the adjacent landowners, in particular the minor village developers, as well as any other developers along this corridor. So what a 380 is, just, and obviously that's not my area, but I can speak to it. The 380 agreement is essentially an incentive agreement between the City of El Paso and the developer, in which the developer continues to pay all property taxes as well as sales taxes. And then at some point, once they've hit certain markers, those portions of those property and sales tax are rebated back to the developer. In this instance, those rebated funds would go to the developer and then would be assigned ultimately to the RMA to repay those debts that are created by the RMA. So under Roman numeral 3, then you'll see the funding details. You'll see table 1, which is the total estimated project cost, and that breaks down by phase. So you'll see phase 1 total project cost is $15.7 million. Phase 2 is $7.7 million, and together they're $23.5 million. Table 2 also shows the proposed reimbursement period and payment schedule, and that's relates specifically to the $19 million that we are requesting from TxDOT. So beyond that, we have a representative from the developer of the minor village development here, should you have any questions about the overall development or this project in specific. And subject to your questions.
I have a question. The total project is $23,509,000 and change, correct?
Correct.
But the only thing we're going to be involved with is the $19 million and change?
No, actually, we would issue the debt for the entire project, the $23 million, and then the funding sources would kick in, and those two funding sources would pay back the 23 plus the interest.
Right, but on table 2, if you have those minimum payments, whether they be the 10-year or the 5-year, those only add up to $19,355,000 and change.
That's correct. Table 2 relates specifically to the pass-through component. I should have been more clear on that. I apologize.
Where's the rest of the revenue coming from?
The 380 agreements, the incentive agreements that we discussed.
And to be clear, the 380 agreements basically are set up that a certain portion of property tax is it mainly property tax?
I believe it's property tax and sales tax, although we do have someone from the city's economic development department here. And I should mention too, this proposed 380 agreement is just that. It's in development between the city and the developer. So this application obviously is subject to that negotiation between the city and the developer.
Right, Ms. Dodson?
Yes, Kathy Dodson, Director of Economic Development. And I want to be clear, the city will be providing a letter that they support this project in concept, but the city has not committed to pay 100% of the non-construction costs, to include financing costs through a 380. This has not been to council. And so our letter will be a letter of general support. And I don't believe that the city is looking to bear 100% of those costs. But we just got the numbers this morning.
And that's a good point. This, as you know, we came before this board, I think, 2 weeks back, and we had this information about a week prior to that. So this is moving very quickly now. Now, it's important to note that although the city has not fully committed through the acts of the city council, nor has this board, the submission of this application does not bind you to this financing scheme either. So what happens now is we need to get this application in before tomorrow to beat the deadline so that it can compete within that statewide competition. And in the interim, then the city and the developer will negotiate their details. The RMA then goes back also through its general engineering consultant and reviews all of these details and makes sure that we're comfortable and that we can do it for what we're proposing, and everything is ready to go. And again, so subject to all of those reviews, then we can move forward. If the city, by way of example, is not comfortable with the numbers, then this project essentially goes away, and we would rescind the application.
So all we're voting for today is to give you permission to submit the application.
That's exactly right. And as a reminder, too, this is a pass-through application. This requires a minimum of 2 steps from the Texas Transportation Commission as well. So there are a number of steps that still have to happen before the RMA is actually committed to this project. And that goes the same for the city. And I should have been more clear about that.
To clarify for me, is the developer, are we relying on funds from the developer to pay any of this back?
Yes, absolutely. And that now the way that it would, essentially what we're talking about then is that the 380 agreement would be put in place so that the developer, and Kathy, I don't know if you want to clarify the way that
The way the 380 works is that we rebate a portion of property taxes to the developer, which the developer can then use to repay this.
So there's really, the city's not going to expand any funds, they're just going to bait some tax revenue, is that right?
Well, it is a rebate. So it's tax revenue that we would normally have used to provide services to this area.
But you would collect them and then rebate them back.
We will collect the taxes and rebate a portion of them back.
And they're only property, is that correct?
That is all that we are looking at this time.
Okay. 380 is allowed for property and sales?
That's correct.
Okay.
Are the 380 agreements based on some sort of appreciation in the value where
Yes.
they have to appreciate but to some certain number? So basically, the whole pie is going to be bigger.
That's correct. As they add buildings, they will increase the value.
Okay.
So, and we are reliant upon the developer to develop according to their plan. So the nice thing about a rebate from the city standpoint is that that actual increase has to accrue before we give it back.
Makes a lot of sense.
And all that, the rebates would be assigned to the RMA?
Yes.
Well,
that's the concept. I mean, if we're using this as a funding source, we would have to have some sort of right to those funds.
right, and we'll have to work on that because we are also working in parallel on
Right.
additional 380s that are not for this project. So there's a lot to be worked out.
Are the 380s a tool that the city uses on a regular basis?
Yes,
Yes?
yes.
Is there anything atypical about this particular 380 that's unusual or different from the other?
Yes, there are a couple of things. One is we have a policy to use these for jobs and investment. This doesn't fall into that category. Instead, we're doing this to incentivize a new type of development. The development will be required to be smart code. So that in itself is unusual. And then also the RMA portion is unusual in that we would be assigning a portion of the rebate to another entity. But I don't foresee any particular problems working that out. We just have to sit down and do it. Helps that Raymond's a lawyer.
Great, but not our lawyer. That's your point. On a regular basis. So, super. Any other questions?
Do we have an idea of what the development is going to be? What tenants are being considered? What the design is going to look like?
Good morning, Yolanda Hine. I was here a couple of weeks ago, and I apologize I didn't bring the site plan today. But the development is approximately 200 acres. It's going to be it's going to be smart code, so it's going to be a mixed use of commercial, some residential. We haven't identified any of the tenants yet, although they are currently looking at bringing some tenants in that are not here and doing some of those studies. But there's going to be $1 million of retail and entertainment, 1 million square feet, 2 hotels are proposed. 250,000 square feet of office space is going to be added, and about 1,200 new residential units. So that's kind of the component of what the plan is proposing. The plan was adopted and designed in conjunction with the city of El Paso under the smart code.
The residential is all single-family homes or a
There's going to be
combination?
some single family combination.
Okay. Can you go over those numbers again? How much
A
commercial
million
or retail?
Retail, 1 million square feet of retail and entertainment. 2 hotels, approximately 300 rooms. 250,000 square feet of office space, and 1,245 new residential units. Combination of apartments, condos, and townhomes.
Okay. When I originally were looking at the map, I thought that the extension from Mesa down to I-10 was going to be part of this, but now the developer is going to build that extension as part of their cost. They're going to cut that road in and connect it from, I believe, what is Castellano now down to I-10, where this new infrastructure is going to be put in place?
That's correct, and that's because that's not identified as a TxDOT road. It is a city road, and so it's not eligible under the program.
So the developer is going to put that in as part of their cost in developing this entire area?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we're only looking from Interstate to Donovan, correct?
Actually, no, we wouldn't. That's noted on the map as a proposed future development as well. That is the same issue. That's not a proposed TxDOT facility, so we would not construct that within this project either. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because originally when we first came to you a couple weeks ago, we were looking at including that as well. Since it's not a TxDOT facility, it cannot be paid for out of the pass-through financing program. So really, what we're asking for through this application is simply the frontage roads and the overpass. Simply straight TxDOT facility improvements.
Okay, so the road from Mesa to the interstate will be borne by the developer in the city.
Correct.
So all we're looking for at this point in time is the access roads.
That's correct, and the overpass. Yes, sir. That's what this project is.
So just to be clear, what we're looking at then is the extension of Executive to Mesa Park from going west, and then also the overpass over I-10 and then an extension road to an access road over to Executive, and then access to the freeway there. With the second phase just being on the east side of I-10, and that's going to be a one-way road, correct?
That's correct, from the Mesa Park interchange all the way out to Summit Park, and that would be the extent of that.
And then there's also a small portion of Phase 2 from the Estarco Bridge that doesn't connect to Executive Center. That connects, what is that portion?
That portion is basically you're moving back the frontage road. Currently, and I believe you can see it on the map, you can see where the current frontage road, the current exit for Executive Center is. What this additional portion would be is to move that, actually extend that frontage road back to allow for better mobility. So it's an extended frontage road is essentially what it is.
Okay. The same developer doesn't own the land on the west side of I-10 where this proposed future connection is down to Paisano, correct? That's
correct. I believe that's Cemex land.
So that would, whatever private developer owns that land would be responsible if they wanted to, or?
Well, I should say there's a good portion of it that's owned by Cemex, but the portion that we're looking at developing for the frontage road, the majority of that is managed by the Public Service Board and owned ultimately by the City of El Paso.
I see under right-of-way that there's 0 costs for Phase 1 and 2. That's all currently owned by TxDOT or by the PSB?
That's correct, sir.
So there's no cost to acquire that frontage road?
Now, of course, all of this is subject to the approval of these entities allowing for the use of their property in this way.
My questions are satisfied. Does any of the board have any questions?
No, clear.
If not, is there a motion to approve item 3?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the executive director to execute an amendment to work authorization number 3 between the CRRMA and Post Buckley Shoe and Jernigan, Inc. regarding the continuing market valuation process for the Loop 375 Southern Corridor Phase 1 Cesar Chavez Managed Lanes project and any related documentation. Mr. Tejas?
Okay, as you know, the Camino Real RMA and TxDOT are currently engaged in the market valuation process for the Cesar Chavez project. And by way of background, the market valuation process is a statutorily required process whereby the entities, whereby any toll project has to go through in order to be developed. And it's one of the first steps that any entity has to undertake in order to pursue a toll project. Essentially what you do is you identify the value of that project And in the instances where there is essentially a positive valuation, then the entity that it looks to develop the project identifies where those additional where the additional revenue would go in terms of future projects. So we've been involved in this market valuation process, I think, for this project about 2 years. And as you know, this project has moved forward, stepped back, moved forward and back. Well, we're moving forward now. The Texas Department of Transportation has undertaken the design and will also be in charge of the construction of the project. And we're looking still at a letting date for the Texas Department of Transportation of April. So this project really has taken a new life and is moving very quickly. So again, and I can sit down with our newer members to go through the market valuation process in a little more detail should you be interested. But essentially, the market valuation process has been going on for some time. I should say also, one important step of the market valuation process is that actually, let me back it up. I think it's important to go through the market valuation process in a little more detail. The market valuation process amounts to the development and the agreement of the terms and conditions on any proposed toll project between TxDOT and the local tolling project, or the local toll project entity.
Which in this case potentially is the RMA based on our primacy, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. So a separate statute says that RMAs have essentially first right of refusal to pursue a toll project in any area. So the RMA has that right currently. What we are currently negotiating then are the terms and conditions for the development of that project. And the terms and conditions in this usage essentially amount to three areas. It's the scope of the project, it's the initial toll rate, and it's the toll rate escalation method. Those three items have been before this board prior and have been approved so that we could continue the process, but they will be back. So once this board approved of them and once TxDOT had approved of those, then what happens is those approved terms and conditions go through the region's metropolitan planning organization for review and approval of those terms and conditions. And in fact, that's where we are now. Essentially, so let me then go to this work authorization. In order for the Regional Mobility Authority to bring on our general engineering consultant, we have a master agreement with that engineering consultant, the GEC, and then for each project that we pursue, we execute a work authorization. So when we began the market valuation process, we executed work authorization number 3 with the GEC, and that was for the market valuation process. However, it did not contemplate the level of engagement and involvement of the local MPO. We've met with the MPO, so the MPO has to approve the terms and conditions, and what our local MPO did was they provided this market valuation terms and conditions issue, they sent it to a subcommittee. That subcommittee has met, I believe, twice now, and they're asking for at least another meeting as well. And what we're looking at now is the ways that the terms and conditions were developed in a level of detail that we weren't expecting. So this amendment then seeks an additional task, and if you'll go actually to your backup, you'll see in Exhibit A1, Task 1, 2, and 3, all of those remain the same, and essentially what we're doing is we're adding a 4th task. And that 4th task is for the GEC to provide technical support to the RMA through the MPO process. And that's essentially what we're doing.
Got it. And for the benefit of those that may be watching our live stream or not aware of this project, basically we're going to rehab or refurb 2 lanes on each side from US 50 forward to Zaragoza, and then we're adding 2 express lanes with the intention that those will be tolled to pay for the construction. Total project cost is right at $80.25 million. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. Yes, sir.
So right now, we have we asserted conditional primacy on the project at this point, or are we still working those details out?
We're still working those details out. In fact, once the market valuation process is complete, then I will come back to you with a request for approval of the execution of the market valuation agreement as well as the issuance of conditional primacy.
Okay. So I think it's fairly clear with what PBS&J is going to be handling. Does anybody have any questions with this additional work authorization?
I should mention, too, the funding source, and I apologize, I'm kind of bumbling through this. This is really a very quick development. I should have given you a lot more detail. The issue with this one is that we had the MPO subcommittee meeting on Thursday of last week, and at that meeting, it was requested a good deal amount of additional information be provided to the MPO subcommittee. And from then, since I knew we were posting this agenda that Thursday afternoon for the previous item, I added this as a last minute. So this has been a very quick turnaround. The funding source, however, for this project is a loan from TxDOT in the amount of $330,000 that we received back in 2007. So we have the funding available. It's sitting in our accounts and can be used specifically, and in fact can only be used for these types of services.
And that is the reason that this expense is being borne by us, not by TxDOT, right?
That's correct.
That's not good.
Well, with the intention that this is our project, and we'll maintain and operate the express toll lanes at some point. The nice thing about the conditional primacy is we have basically the ability to look at this project and continue to take a look at the market valuation and discuss that in further length as, some of those other financial details start rolling in. So, Mr. Tejas, I appreciate you putting this together on such short notice. A lot of this has moved fairly quickly. I saw the emails come in at 10 o'clock Friday night and then 10 o'clock again Saturday night with the backup. So I know you had a rather busy weekend, and I appreciate your dedication to the RMA. So,
Thanks for the weekend, Raymond.
does anybody have any questions on work authorization number 3 in regards to the market valuation study?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. And I have misplaced a copy of my minutes, so somehow, here we go. Got it. And I believe that's our total business. Mr. Tejas, was there anything else that we needed to discuss?
No, sir. I would only mention that the Finance Committee meeting there is a Finance Committee meeting scheduled for tomorrow at 1:30, and the entire board obviously is welcome to attend, and that the agenda for that is specifically the audit from the prior fiscal year. So we'll have the draft audit there, and we'll have our auditors there to answer any questions. The intent is for it to, this is exactly what we did last year, is for the draft audit to be routed through the committee, the Finance Committee tomorrow, with a recommendation to be provided to the full board at our regular meeting of March 9th.
Great.
Quick question. There was a meeting on Friday at the MPO on toll viability. You were going to brief us on it.
I'm sorry. That was the meeting that I was referring to earlier. That's the MPO subcommittee, and the point of that committee is simply to look at toll viability and market valuation process for these projects. That's what that was.
Great. I believe that's it. I appreciate all the board members being flexible to schedule this non-scheduled board meeting. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned at 10 o'clock on February 28th, 2011. Thank you.
Good.